This morning, and I'm glad to have you with us. We are working on fumes this morning, y'all. It's been a long 3 days at the hospital, and didn't get much sleep last night, but so thank the Lord for His energizing power. Amen, amen. It's not about us, right? It makes us dependent upon Him. I want to share something with you that has been on my heart for a number of days now. And if you have your Bibles, I want you to open to Mark chapter 10. If you don't have a Bible, this will be on the screen, so don't freak out over it. And we'd like to put it up there so you know that I ain't making it up. It's all in there. It's all in there. Mark chapter 10, I'll be there in just a moment. Our nephew, not the one that was born last night, but our nephew Oliver, you hear me talk a lot about him. He was at the house the other day, and he's got what he calls his room. His room at our house, his room. He's got some toys back there. He's got a little training set. And I went back there, he wanted me to play with me. Went back there and he showed me something that he had put all together. And the previous time that he was there, he's like, I did it all by myself. And I was like, wow. And he's 5 years old now. And I said, man, that took a lot of perseverance. And he said, I don't know that word. And I said, perseverance? You don't know words? He said, what does that word mean? And I said, well, it means, when something's a little hard or difficult and it's taking some time, long, and I said, you stick with it and you carry it on, you finish it till you get it done. And I said, they call it perseverance. And he said, I don't think that's a real word. And I said, no. I said, it is a real word. And so I'm talking to some, 50-year-old man, I go with this long explanation and definition and everything of what it is. You got to stick with it. You got to carry on. You got to press on. And when you do that, it might be tough. And then I go all through that, and I get through my glorious explanation. He looks back at me honestly, and this is what he said. He said, Keith, I think you're being really ridiculous. So I left the room. And I got to thinking, I wonder if he's the only one that doesn't know the word perseverance. I got to thinking if he's not just the word, we know the word, we know the definition, we know the English language. It's not what I mean. He didn't know the definition. I'm talking about the substance. And I got to wondering how many of us have the substance and know really the perseverance that it takes. And I want to talk to us about persevering in our faith. I just believe that there are things sometimes in life, and of course we have an adversary that tries to stand in our way and restrict us and hold us back. I just believe that there's some people that you maybe were once pursuing something, and you can get sidetracked, and you can get delayed, and you can get distracted, and different things can happen. And if we're not careful, we start, kind of giving up, and we start kind of making some concessions along the way, and we start getting into some side roads. And I want to talk to you about persevering in our faith. And I want to show you somebody that did that. Mark chapter 10, as you can tell, verse 46, beginning there. A familiar story to many of us. If you're not familiar with it, you're going to hear it right now, so you will be familiar with it. But Mark chapter 10, verse 46, when it says they, it's talking about Jesus and His disciples. And they came to Jericho, and as He went out of Jericho with His disciples, and a great number of people, blind Bartimaeus, okay, it's about a blind man, no vision, no sight, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the highway side begging. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And many charged him that he should hold his peace. But he cried the more a great deal, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus, I love this. And Jesus stood still. He said, man, this guy, I can't just walk away from him. The way he's crying out, the way that he's persisting. The Bible says, and Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called. And they called the blind man, saying unto him, be of good comfort, rise, he calleth thee. And he, the blind man, casting away his garment, He arose and came to Jesus. And Jesus answered and said to him, What wilt thou that I should do unto thee? The blind man said unto him, Lord, that I might receive my sight. And Jesus said unto him, Go thy way, thy faith hath made thee whole. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus in the way. I want to talk to you the next little bit about what I think is one of the predominant thoughts that was in Bartimaeus' heart and his mind and his spirit. I want to talk to you about that spirit that I think was within him that needs to be within us. When Jesus walked by, I want to talk to you the next little bit, and maybe it'll have to take 2 weeks to do it. I want to talk to you about this thought. I refuse to stay here. I refuse to stay here. If you look at his situation, you can see this as a thought, as a burning thought and desire, an attitude, if you will, a principle. I refuse to stay here. I don't know how many of you are familiar, probably a lot of you are familiar with what is called the Serenity Prayer. The Serenity Prayer. There are different types of it. There's different lengths and all of it. But you may even you know this, or maybe you pray this, or maybe you have prayer, or maybe you have some in your house that's got it on it. But I want to bring this up just a minute. I want you to look. This is the Serenity Prayer, is what it's called. It just says this: God, grant me the serenity. That word just means the peace. Give me peace in my heart. Okay, now, let me disclaimer here. This prayer is not in the Bible. It's not necessarily a biblical found prayer, but it's something that people use. God, grant me the serenity or the peace in my heart to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Anybody ever heard that, seen that, know that? Okay, so look what he said. He said, grant me the peace. I need peace in my heart to accept the things that I cannot change. I need courage to become active and to change the things that I can. And I need God's wisdom to know the difference. This is a good prayer. Many would say it's a good prayer. Some might even argue that it is a great prayer. There is a place in life for us learning to accept some things that are reality. There is a place in life where we need courage to be able to take a stand or to step out by faith and begin to make a difference. There is biblical principle and precedent in that. And then we do need the wisdom that only God can give us to know the difference. What can I change and what can I not change? I can't change the weather, but I can change my response. I can have the courage to respond a different way. I can't change necessarily seasons in my life the way that I would like to, but I can change something. I need courage to be able to operate in this particular season in a different way, or whatever is required. And so I need God's wisdom to know the difference. So all of that is good, and all of that is fine. And it's a good prayer, and maybe even a great prayer. But to me, the prayer also presents some challenges. Because in looking at God, I want peace to accept the things that I cannot change. And some of y'all rolling things in your head right now. Situations, circumstances, I can't change that, can't change that, can't change that, can't change that. And so what you're doing is you're saying, okay, this is where he's going, to accept the things that I cannot change. But here's the challenge to me about this prayer. When I say challenge, it's a danger. It's a danger. Now, I'm not against the prayer. Don't go home and throw stuff out of your house and pull down things out of the wall, and leave holes in the wall, and say Pastor Keith said it wasn't God. It's not what I'm saying. But if you look at this real careful, there's a subtle danger to it that I think we see in life. And what is this? It is one thing for us to recognize that we cannot change some things. Right? It's one thing to recognize your own limitations. But in accepting or learning to accept that we cannot change some things, there's a subtle danger that we can tend to place our personal limitations on the God. That I'm supposed, if I can't change it, I need to learn to accept it. And there's a subtle danger in that. Because that will defeat your faith. That thing right there will eat your faith for lunch. That thing right there will drain every ounce of faith that you could muster out of you. Now again, in context, the prayer, it may be fine, but there's a subtle danger because we as human beings, we tend that if we can't do it, we kind of tend to gravitate away from it ever happening. And for people of faith, that is a very dangerous, a subtle danger, I guess I should say. That because as people of faith who are familiar and know and believe in the power and the promises of God, His capacity and His capability, His infinite nature, His unlimited resources, the fact that you cannot squelch Him, that you cannot diminish Him, the fact that that He does not deteriorate, the fact that He has all power, that He is omnipotent or omnipotent as it is said, because He has all power, or omniscient, that He has all knowledge, or that He is omnipresent, which means He is everywhere all the time. There's not a place that He is not at any given moment. He may not be manifesting His presence, but He is there. And knowing that about the nature of God, we must be careful that as we are trying to accept that there are some things that I cannot change, that I do not put my limitations on God and quit praying and quit believing and quit exercising my faith, believing that He either cannot or will not do something about what I found out that I can't change. Some of you have family situations. Some of you have a sickness. Some of you have different things that's going on in your life right now that you cannot change. You can't do it. But God can. But God can. And so I need that wisdom, right? I need that wisdom and I need the courage. But the courage I need is not just to change the things that I can. The courage that I also need is the courage to believe God in light of my own limitations. To believe in the unlimited nature of God. To believe that He can do, amen. That He can do what nobody else can do. That He can take care of it. That He can change it. Listen, ain't nobody in here can change your heart. Nobody can change your heart. I wish I could. I'd start with mine. I'd make it to some others. I didn't look at anybody when I was saying it either. Right? So what do you say? But God can change your heart. Doesn't matter how callous, doesn't matter how hard, doesn't matter how worn and how weather-beaten, doesn't matter what it's been through. Come on, doesn't matter what it looks like, doesn't matter what ill is in it, what wickedness is in it right now. God can take that and He can change that. He can take it from hard and make it soft. He can take it from dirty and make it clean. He can take it from rebellious and make it submissive. He can do what we cannot do. And so as we try to accept the things that we cannot change, let us not place our own limitations. As we accept that, let us not place our limitations on God. And God, give us the courage to believe You, even in the midst of our own limitations. Help us to continue to believe Your unlimited nature. That there is no restriction to Him except what we're able to believe. It can be a subtle danger. What happens is if we do this, what I've seen a lot of times, and I'm going to tell you from experience, what I've seen a lot of times is the subtle danger in this, and this kind of sneaks up on you, and before you realize, you don't sometimes even realize that you're doing it. We could go through some diagnostic questions to see whether we're doing it, because we can talk about how are you praying about it now? How are you praying about it now? Because the truth is that I said Wednesday night that prayer, a simple definition of prayer is inviting God to get involved in your situation. Prayer is inviting God to get involved in your situation. And when we come to terms with our own limitations, many people in many circumstances, you know what they do? They stop inviting God's participation. Because they are all of a sudden aware of their own limitation, they stop calling out on God. Listen, when I become aware of my own limitation, it should make us want to cry out to God even more. It should stir something within us and say, God, if this needs to be changed, God, only you can do it. I am totally helpless in this situation. There is not anything that I can do, physically do, or maybe financially do, or medically do, or counsel, or whatever it is. And so what happens is if we place our limitations on to God, what happens is we can end up accepting some things that we should be fighting against. We can end up accepting some things we should be resisting. Because it's not a matter of having faith or not. It's a matter of who our faith is in. Where our faith is being placed. You won't believe somebody, and you can believe somebody that's positive, or you can believe somebody that's negative, but you won't believe somebody. And so I want to understand my own limitations. That's fine. God, I need peace. I need peace. Man, I could really talk about that. Because what some people do is they stop going after something trying to find peace. But he said the peace has to come first. If you are to stop pursuing something, you'll have a peace that you're supposed to step back. You don't step back in order to get the peace. It's His peace that leads you. It's His peace that comes first. It's His peace that says, leave that place, or leave that job, or put that off, or do this, or do that. It's His peace. The Bible said in Isaiah 55, you shall go out in peace. So in peace is how I go out. I don't go out trying to obtain it. I go out having already obtained it. And then I take the necessary action. So grant me the peace ahead of time that I will need to say, hey, I can't change that, but God, give us courage. Give us courage. That we can continue to believe God, that God can change things, that God can move in our lives. See, our human nature, I said that what happens is we start accepting things that we should be resisting. Our human nature is the type that many times we are guilty of pursuing the wrong things. And we give up on things we shouldn't give up on. We stop pursuing things we should keep pursuing, and we start pursuing things we should stop pursuing. What about Israel? Israel in the wilderness. Remember when they were there 40 years, the Bible said, and the Bible says as they went through the wilderness that God rained down manna upon them. Every day they had manna coming down. Manna, 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 manna. Monday manna, Tuesday manna. Every day. All the women got together and wrote a cookbook, 1,001 ways to fix manna. That ain't in the Bible, though. That ain't going to be on your screen. So. And they said, man, we have had it with this manna. We have had it with this. And here's what we want. We want some meat. We want some meat. We want something else besides this that God's given us. And all of a sudden they start pursuing something they shouldn't pursue. Doesn't seem to be a danger in it, except that God had not initiated it. Now this is what happened. God said, okay, I'll give it to you. And this is what the Bible says in the book of Psalms. And I don't have time to really do this and just give it as an illustration. The Bible said that God gave them their desire, but it brought leanness to their soul. We pursue things that we think that, of course, this is going to benefit me. Of course, this is good. Of course, this will be a great thing in my life. And he said, sometimes you see the potential blessing. He said, but I see the potential backlash. You see the benefit, but I see the liability it could be. Amen. It's like that new job. It's like that big raise. It's like that big increase in your salary. And right now, you're so dependent on the Lord. Ooh, got quiet in here. Stepped on your pocketbook and everybody. And so all of a sudden what happens, then you get that big. And you say, of course this is big. And listen, there's nothing wrong with that increase coming if you can handle it. That's right. If you can handle it. But what happens a lot of time is we shift our dependence. That's true. And now we're not as dependent on the Lord anymore because we got more money, so we don't need to be as dependent on the Lord. Go ahead, Pastor. glad y'all have appreciation next week because I ain't going to get nothing today anyway. Help me, Jesus. Keep preaching like that, I may not get you next week either. I don't know. But you see what I'm saying? So we see, well, we only the benefit. Of course it's going to be enough. God says, but it could bring a leanness to your soul. Some things that we pursue are not always as beneficial as we perceive. Some things that we pursue are not always as beneficial as we initially perceive. Amen. Can I talk straight to you just a minute? Sometimes what can nurture one area can neuter a different area. Sometimes what can nurture, we think it can nurture one area, but it can actually neuter or make unproductive another area of our life. It might help your bank account. It might help this. It might help your status. It might help your recognition. It might help get your name out there. It might help in something, but will it bring a leanness to your soul? Will it? And so that's why I like that verse in 3 John where the writer said, I think it's 3 John verse 2, it's only one chapter, it's verse 2, and he said, Beloved, I would that you would prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth. If you can handle that and it still prosper your soul, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But if it's going to bring a leanness, a spiritual leanness, a spiritual deficiency to your soul, then I got to be really hesitant and say, I don't know. I just don't know whether that's right or not. And so God says, and so it's not, listen, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's God's will or that we should all just be content to struggle. That's not what I said. Because it's not about staying in a struggling position. It's about learning how to handle success. It's about learning how to handle those things and not letting those things affect our soul. If that increase and that promotion, because the Bible said that promotion doesn't come from the east or the west. It comes from the Lord. And if the Lord's raising you up, that's one thing. But if you're trying to make it happen yourself, come on, you exalt yourself, He'll bring you low. But if you humble yourself, He'll take you high. And so it's about our soul. And so God says, you see the potential benefit, I see the potential backlash. And so we need that wisdom. We need the wisdom to discern God's working and to accept His judgment in either letting something happen or letting something not happen. I can't tell you how many, amen. I can't tell you how many times I'm going to say something, okay? I'm going to say something. I can't tell you how many times I've been disappointed with God. Frustrated with God. You didn't let that happen. You didn't do that. Man, I knew this was it. I knew it. This is the direction. This is the way. And this is the right. And it's the time. And this is my sin. And it didn't happen. And I was frustrated. One, I wasn't accepting that I could change it. Right? And then when I couldn't change it, then I'm frustrated that He did. But listen, but having looked back, I understand a lot more now of what He was doing. There were some things that I was longing for and praying for, only to get a few months down the road and realize He protected me by saying no. He protected me. And so sometimes if we're not careful, we can begin to not accept the Lord's judgment in a situation and try to push on. However, all of that is not even our message. I threw that in for free. The message is about giving up pursuit of things that we should be pursuing too early. Accept your limitations, okay, to a degree, but don't pass them on to God. There's just some things that you can't do, but God can do anything. Don't pass it on. Just because you can't change it, don't mean God can't change it. Hey, if y'all haven't noticed, I don't know how long some of you lived, but if y'all ain't noticed, life can get complicated. It can really get complicated. What decision do I make sometimes? What step do I take? What direction do I go? It can be very complex. It can be very confusing in life. And there's a lot of differentiating. There's a lot of discerning that has to go on. And I wonder how many times that we look at a situation and we see it as being unchangeable by us. I wonder how many times when we see it as unchangeable by us, we have relegated it as to completely unchangeable. To unchangeable, period. Now, we wouldn't come out and say that because we holy and we squeak when somebody rubs up against us because we so clean and all that. But I wonder how many of us really in our heart, we just say, well, it can't be changed. Ain't nothing can be done. And we stop pursuing the things that God had once put in our heart. Do we give up on? Watch this. Bartimaeus, I thought I forgot about him. He's still sitting there by the road. Bartimaeus was blind. He could not see. And I wonder if we give up on, or we lose sight of, or lose vision for certain dreams, certain passions, certain desires, certain steps, certain things we want to see God do, that we once cried out with a passion to see Him do. And we cried out with passion for it to happen. And suddenly we may have believed that we could really do something to change it. And as we realized we couldn't make it happen, then we quit crying out to God as much or with as much passion. And what happened you see the subtlety? And the shift is now, I just think it's not going to change at all. No. He's trying to bring you to the end of yourself so that you will look more to Him. The song says, turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full, not apart, not cockeyed, not sideways. Look full at His wonderful face. Look fully to Him, completely dependent on Him. And so I wonder how many times we lose sight of or lose vision for certain dreams and desires that we should have kept pursuing. Oh, Bart. Me and him's friends, I call him Bart. Me and him go way back. Old Bart is blind. Bartimaeus is blind. He's then lost sight. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know when this occurred. Maybe he never really had a vision, but maybe it happened when he was young. Maybe it was just a year ago before we see this story. Maybe it was 3 months. We take for granted that it was forever. We don't know that. We're not told in this passage. We're told about another man that was blind from birth, and people that were crippled from birth. And we don't know about Bartimaeus. He's blind, and he cannot see. Have you ever had life happen to the point that you have lost your vision for something that once you saw clearly and once you saw vividly, but you lost your vision for it? That maybe even today in this building it needs to be rekindled. That maybe today God's going to strike the match and try to reignite something in your heart. Not telling you that you can change it, but telling you that even though you cannot change it, I can still change it. I can still do it. Because His power is not dependent upon your ability. Your ability is dependent upon His power. And He has all power. And so his process, Bartimaeus, his process of deliverance, this is what I want to get to, his process of deliverance did not start externally. Situation didn't change. But something happened on the inside of him. Something started with an internal attitude. And he started having that attitude of, I refuse to stay here. I refuse to stay here. You and I have to remember that change does not always start outside of us. Change does not always start outside of us. Well, you know, if my boss would get it together, if my co-workers get it together, if my husband get it together, my wife get it together, my children get it together, my parents get it together, if the pastor get it together, my congregation get it together, and we think that that's what change is dependent on. No, change is many times does not start externally, it starts within us. And it starts partly when we can have that approach and an attitude of saying, I refuse to stay here. I refuse to stay where I am. I got to think about old Bart. Here he is by the side of the road. He's begging. He seems as if he has come to grips and learned to accept the fact that he can do nothing to change his blindness. He's got a little cup and he's begging. Somebody give me something. Somebody get me through. Somebody help me survive another day. It wasn't about thriving, but it was about surviving. And he seems to have accepted the fact that he can do nothing to change his blindness. He was not collecting alms so he could try this new treatment that came out. He wasn't saying, hey, could somebody give me a shot of this? No, he's understood the fact there's some things I cannot do anything about. But one day he heard Jesus was walking by. Listen, do not mistake. Do not make the mistake. Just because I understand that I cannot do anything about it does not mean that I don't believe that he can do something about it. Just because I understand that I am limited does not mean that I've given up hope and don't ever pray and don't ever talk to God about it. I still believe that he is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that I could ask or think. That there's nothing outside of his power, and there's nothing outside of his capacity, and there's nothing outside of his capability. Bartimaeus had accepted that he could do nothing about his blindness, but he also, this is what I love about him, he had also maintained his belief that Jesus could do something that Bartimaeus himself could not do. And his attitude and his approach helped spark a divine encounter. That approach of I refuse to stay here. I refuse to stay here. I refuse to let where I am be where I stay. We'll try it over here. I refuse to let where I am in this situation, where I am in this circumstance, where I am in this issue, where I am in, I refuse to let where I am be where I stay. I refuse to just accept. I get it. I can't do anything to change it, but that don't mean I'm content to stay here. That doesn't mean I'll give up. That doesn't mean I've lost hope. That don't mean I don't continue to pray and don't continue to seek God. I say, many times it should spur in us a deeper prayer. More prayer, more intense prayer, because we understand I can't do it, Lord. I am totally dependent upon you. I am utterly dependent upon you to do this. So I refuse to stay here. I refuse to let where I am be where I stay. I cannot always outwardly choose where I am, but I can choose inwardly that I refuse to stay where I currently am. I refuse, amen. I refuse to let where I am tell me that that's all I am. Some of you right now, your circumstance is talking to you and you need to turn around and talk to it. Your mountain is talking to you and saying you are incapable, you are unable, you cannot do this, you cannot conquer me. And you know what, it might be right, but if you're going in your own power, they may have a point. But when you link up with the power of Almighty God, when you understand that He that lives in you is the one that flung the stars in place, when you understand that the one that is in you is able to do anything, when you understand that the one that is strengthening you, and then you begin to look at that thing and proclaim, I can't do it on my own. Without Him, I can do nothing, but I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can get up over you. I can rise to new heights. I can accomplish new things. I can get there. I refuse to let where I am tell me that that's all I am. Oh, you'll always be blind. You'll always be a beggar. Your family will never be saved. You'll always come to church by yourself. Oh, that thing will never get straightened out. That situation will never go away. That sickness will never be healed. That's just where you are. You're just a blind old beggar. No, there is more. I chose this picture. I chose this picture very, very carefully because, of course, it's a road. A lot that's around it is where we find ourselves sometimes. At least the way we feel. It's just kind of desert and barren land, and just kind of flat. Everybody just been in life at a flat place. Things just flat. Family's flat. Right? Jobs flat. Church flat. Preacher's flat. You know, I'm not talking about me. Made you a little bit. Anyway. So there's flat lands and we find ourselves there. But here's why I chose it. Because in the distance. That's right. In the distance there's a higher place. Amen. I don't care how I listen. Oh my God. So sometimes you ought to thank God for the flat areas. That's right. Because when he puts you in a flat place, you can get a better view of what lays ahead. Man, I get a better view of the mountain. See, I don't lose sight of it. I get it up close and personal. Come on, somebody. And so it spurs me on, hey, there is something that I can attain. I don't have to stay in this ravine. I don't have to stay in this dip. I don't have to stay in this level place. I don't have to stay in this plateau. I don't have to stay in this barrier. There's something beyond. There's something greater. There's something higher. There's a place of exaltation. There's a place of raising up. There's a place of getting ahead. There's a place of moving on. There's a place where things can change. And I can see, come on somebody, and I can see it. In the desert land, I see the mountains in the distance, that there's something greater, there's something higher that's ahead. And so you know what it does in me? It spurs something in me that says, I refuse to stay here. I refuse to stay here because I see it, I see it, I see it. I see it. Now watch. What we try to do is we try to find somewhere along the side of the road and we try to gather dirt to build our own mountain. We try to build our own mountain. We think that we can do it ourselves. No, you can't do it yourself. Because you might, listen, for every mountain you try to build, you're going to dig a couple of valleys at the same time. And if you should slip and fall, you'll be further down. You know what I'm saying? You'll be further down than you was to start with. So you might as well just get a view of what God has laid out in front of you. And say, this is the direction I'm going. And I might be in a flat place now, but you know what? I am where I am, but I refuse to stay where I am. I admit that I'm here. I'm not denying that I'm where I am. But I'm just saying I refuse to stay where I am. I refuse to just cooperate. Come on. I refuse to cooperate with the spirit of discouragement that's trying to come against me and trying to restrict me and trying to hold me back. I wish I knew who I was preaching to. And so in pursuit of, sometimes we can find ourselves in pursuit of more. But watch this. The Bible said Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, he was blind, and he sat by the highway side begging. This is interesting. There's a road. Watch. The road leads somewhere. But the road actually leads two places. One is forward. One is back. And Bartimaeus, the Bible said, sat on the side of the road. You ever felt like that's where you was at? Not making progress, not getting anywhere, not getting anything done, not seeing anything happen that I want to see happen, just kind of on the side of the road. Come on, ever been in God's waiting room? Ever felt like you've been on the shelf a while? Come on. And He didn't even paint you first. Right? I mean, if He had painted me up and left me there to dry, I mean, I understand it. But I don't think He did any of that. And I just feel like I'm there by the highway and said, well, watch. You got to be careful. Sometimes in life we find ourselves on the side of the road, not really progressing. Okay? We don't want to go back, but we're not really progressing, and we find ourselves stuck. We're on the side of the road. Come on, broke down, out of gas. Come on, out of fuel. Don't know if we can go another step. Got to pull off something's I don't know what it is, but I got to get to the side of the road. Come on. And so all of a sudden we get there to the side. But watch. Here's the caution here. You got to be careful which side of the road you get off on. If you find yourself by the side of the road, make sure that you on the side of the road that's still going the direction that God had been calling you to go in. Because what some people do is they switch sides. When things break down, things don't come together quite the way they thought. They'll pull off, but they pull off, they say, man, I knew I shouldn't have done that. I knew I shouldn't have stepped out. I knew I shouldn't have took that initiated that. And what they'll do is they'll say, man, I gotta, you know what? There was a place, there's a place back there a little ways. And now we're going to switch sides. But you gotta remember there's a road and it goes both ways. It goes towards something better, or it goes in a direction, or it goes in a direction that will keep us blind and keep us begging. The question is, which side of the road are you on? Which side of the road are you? Are you on the I'll always be a beggar side? Help me out. Are you on the I'll always be blind, I'll always be a beggar, I'll always be less than, I'll always be a failure, nothing will ever work out for me? Are you on that side? Or are you on the, hey, I don't like where I am, but I am where I am, but I ain't staying where I am. And as soon as somebody comes by here, as soon as Jesus sent a rescue ship around, come on, if he sent a boat, a plane, a helicopter, a car, if I get in the back of this truck, I'll grab onto his tailgate. I do not care. But if the Lord, I'm just going to say, until I know what to do. And when the Lord came by, listen, the Bible said that Bartimaeus began to cry out, but there was two crowds. Oh, they had intermingled. But there was some voices that spoke to him from the wrong side of the road. Y'all gonna help me? There was some people that their voice spoke from the wrong side of the road and said, why don't you be still? Why don't you be quiet? Why don't you just give up? Why don't you quit crying out to God about that? Why don't you quit believing for that? When are you going to give up? When are you going to move on? You still think God's going to do that? Yep. But as he continued to cry out, he said, I refuse to stay here. I refuse to stay here. Come on, if I had a bunch of people talking all that negativity, I refuse to stay there too. You can stay here and talk amongst yourselves, but I ain't staying to listen. Come on, so Jesus stood still. I wonder sometimes, and we know that he heard it all. We know that Jesus did hear Bartimaeus calling out, but I think Jesus also heard the other people telling him to be quiet. And I think Jesus was not just going to do something for him, but he was going to prove something to them. And for some of us, the reason that God is waiting to tell and do something for us is he's going to use what he does for us to prove something to other people who thought it would never happen and couldn't change, and you couldn't do it, and it would never occur, and it never happened. And so all of a sudden, I got to ask you, which side of the road? Because each side has a crowd. And each side's crowd says stuff. Bartimaeus didn't say, this is how it'll always be. He said, I refuse to stay here. If I wanted to quit preaching and go to meddling, I'd say this is applicable to your marriage. Which side of the road are you on? This is all it'll ever be. This is as good as it gets. We'll just bicker and argue and fuss and feud and then put on our mask and come to church. That hurt me when I said that. Or a family. Or what about our individual spirituality? Which side of the road are you on? Which side of the road are you on? You on the side where people say, you know what, it don't take all that. Are you on the side of the road that says, hey, just do your cute little devotional in the morning, I mean, yeah, you can't remember about 10 o'clock, but it's all right. Or are you going to be on the side of the road that calls you to a deeper commitment and a greater devotion and calls you to pick up your cross and deny yourself and follow Him? Come on. See, one side of the road, I got to find a place to quit here. But one side of the road is there to support your blindness. They just believe you will always be what you are right now. Where you are right now. Dealing with what you're dealing with right now. One side supports your blindness. Watch. The other side supports your vision. I've had enough days in my life spent with people who wanted to support my blindness, support my begging habit. I need to get around some people that support the vision. I need to get around some people that will build my faith. I need to get around some people that believe that God can do and He will do, and just keep on walking. And if the car breaks down, just stay on the right side of the road and make your journey where God's told you to go. Just say, man, the way may get hard and I don't have nobody walking with me, but bless God, I'm determined. I'm going. Come on. I would not take nothing for my journey. Now, got to make it to heaven somehow. I got to make it. I got to keep going. I got to put another step. Put another step. Put another step. I might have to wash some dirt off my face. I might have to clean up a little bit. I might have to stop and pause and hydrate. I might have to do a whole lot of things. But listen, I got to listen to the right side. The right crowd. Man, I'm going to tell you something. I don't even know where I'm at. I'm on the right side of the road. That's all I know. What I do know is this. Is even if you find yourself in the crowd on the wrong side of the road, watch. The thing about Jesus is He'll cross the road to rescue you. Hey, y'all, that's my testimony. That's my testimony. I was on the wrong side, going the wrong way, going the wrong direction, and was too blind to know it. Too blind to realize where I was headed. And I didn't find Him. He found me. And He crossed the road. Come on, stepped across the line. Reached over and said, there's another way. There's a different future. There's something better ahead. You can be something more than you are right now. Hallelujah. So I got to stop right there. Because I don't know where you at. But somebody might be here and be on the wrong side of the road. And life and the enemy and maybe people and maybe family and maybe culture and maybe I don't know what has told you that's all you'll ever be and you're worthless and it's never going to work out and you can't be anything more and you can't do but so much. I come to tell you something. That devil is a liar. I am living proof that we have a God who will cross the road to rescue those who don't even know where they're at. Outside the city, broke down, blind and begging. Please just survive another day. But Jesus comes by and he crosses the road and he said, hey, I've heard your heart's cry. I've heard that you're wanting something better. I'm here to tell you we can turn your life around. You're going the wrong way, but we can go a new way. We can go a new direction. You can accomplish something that you never thought you could accomplish. You can be something life never told you you could be. It's only when I'm in Him I discover who I am. It's only in Him I discover who I am. I don't discover who I am in the desert, in the dirt, in the blindness, in the begging. I discover who I really am because if He saw me worthy to stop, the Bible said He stood still and He called the blind man. And they went and they got him. They said, hey, are you ready to change directions? Are you ready to change? Come on, are you ready to walk in the newness? He said, yeah, I've been saying all along, I refuse to stay here. And I want to tell you, the Lord reached out. Bartimaeus knew exactly what he wanted. He said, Lord, that I might receive my sight. I want a new vision. Some of you right now, you need a new vision. Maybe a restored vision. Maybe a vision restored of something that you once had in your heart, but you've let it slip or life has clouded it. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't listen to the people who are walking away from the mountain, walking away from the higher place. Don't take the advice of those who are letting those things slip and who are fading away. Be careful who you hang with. Be careful the crowd that you get in. Be careful because it creates a sway and a current in your life. And before you know it, even though you may really not want to, you get caught up in it. You get caught up in the current. That's why Jesus stopped. And He said, let's stop this current. Let's stop this current flow. And let's change something. It all started because Bartimaeus had an attitude that said, I refuse to stay here. I refuse to stay here. I don't even know where I'm at. This applies to all areas of our lives. You going to be on the side where you play and you just kind of do enough to feel satisfied, you feel an obligation, or you going to say, man, I'm going to get all the way in. I don't care how I got to go, I'm going to go. I wonder if my nephew was the only one that wasn't really familiar with what perseverance is. Because I'm going to tell you something, you got to make sure that you got to persevere. You got to be determined. I might have to pause. I'm okay with pausing. I'm okay with pausing as long as I don't switch sides. Sometimes you got to reassess. Sometimes you got to recalibrate. Sometimes you got to rehydrate. But I got to keep on going. You can chase a whole lot of things. There's a lot of things that, man, I do so much in this. Somebody here needs Jesus to walk across the road to rescue you. That's why He's here. That's why He came. In this earth, we were on the wrong side of the road. We were on the sin side. And He crossed the line. He crossed the road. And He said, let me put you on the straight and narrow. Let me put you on the straight and narrow. I want you to bow your heads with me this morning. Father, this house today, we thank you, we love you. We honor you, Jesus. And God, we just ask that you would minister now, God. Father, if there's somebody here that needs a touch, needs Jesus, needs salvation, needs recommitment, needs a refreshing and restoring of vision. Father, if there's somebody here that even needs maybe a vision to start with, I don't know, but God, maybe somebody here is going down the wrong side, or they've got caught up in the current. Lord, let them know right now that you'll step across the road to rescue them. Maybe there's somebody here, Lord, that you had once put something in their heart that instilled a vision. Maybe life has happened and they just kind of found themselves on the side of the road, not really making any progress, not knowing what to do, how to approach things. God, would you rekindle something in them today? Father, if somebody here doesn't know Jesus, would you stir their heart? Give them courage to open up, to receive, and to accept Him. They do not have to be perfect to come. That's why we need a Savior. We come to the one who is perfect. We come to the one who rescues. If you're here today and you don't know Jesus Christ as your Savior, man, I want to urge you with all that is within me to open up your heart to Him. Man, He loves you. I don't care what you've done. I don't care where you've been. I don't care where you're at right now in life. I can tell you this with 100% accuracy, no hesitation, absolute confidence, the Lord loves you right where you're at. And He's moving all of us. He's changing all of us. He's transforming all of us. The Bible says that. It makes that clear. But He starts with where we are. And He comes to get us. And if we'll walk with Him, I'm telling you, it's a brand new life, a brand new way, brand new future, brand new possibilities. If you're here today with heads bowed, eyes closed just for a moment, you don't know Jesus, but you say, I want to open my heart to Him. I don't understand everything, but I want to open my heart to Jesus. And you're here today and that's you. Would you just lift your hand? Would you have that courage to lift your hand and say, that's me. I need Jesus and I want Jesus today. Anybody in this building? Anybody in this building? Amen. Amen. Well, here's the thing. Maybe you're here and there's something that you know, maybe you've given up on. Maybe something that you needed to and you once was pursuing. And it's not that you intentionally gave up pursuit, but life just happens. I want to tell you something. I pray that this word, through the Spirit of God, rekindle something deep down in you. You say, you know what? I'm not standing on the side of the road anymore. I want to make sure that I'm headed in the direction that God's called me. I want you to stand to your feet this morning. I want him to turn this song on, it's just 6-7 minutes maybe. And I want us to believe God this morning to touch people's hearts. This altar is open if you want prayer. If you're here and you don't know Jesus, and we would love to introduce you to Him. This is your time. This is your time. But how many knows this? What He's done in us. I'm not going to go back. I'm going to keep going forward. Come on. Can we say this? Can we worship too? Hallelujah. 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 Might have to turn it up, right? Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
In the presence of the Lord, I've been
Hallelujah.
free.
Come on, worship Him. Worship Him. This is what He's done for you.
This morning,
This is what He can do for you. This is what He wants to do for you. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
praise and favor in my life today. I've been changed. I've been changed. And I have
In the name of Jesus. Come on, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. He's done too much. He's changed me. Listen, if he crossed the road to get me, I'm not going to leave him and cross back. I'm not going back. I'm going forward. Come on, turn to your neighbor and tell him, I'm going forward. I'm going forward. I'm going forward. From this day on, I declare it right now. I decree it right now. That old enemy's been trying to pull me aside and pull me back and distract me and get my attention on things that really matter. But I'm declaring it right now. I am not going back. I am moving forward. I am moving ahead. I am going to take steps of faith. I am going to persevere. I am going to make it. The enemy and the spirit that said that I would never do it, I will have to prove them to be a liar, because I'm going to make it. I'm going to achieve. I'm going to accomplish through the help and the grace of God. I'm going to do it. Hallelujah. We love you, Jesus. We love you, Jesus. We magnify you, Jesus. We exalt you and we praise you, Jesus. Oh God, you're great and greatly to be praised. I refuse to stay here. I refuse to stay here. This circumstance, come on. Your destiny is bigger. Your destiny is bigger. Your future is bigger. You gotta make sure that your dreams are bigger than your memories. You gotta make sure your dreams are bigger than your memories. You gotta make sure that, come on, you gotta make sure that what's ahead of you, your future, is greater than your fear. You gotta make sure, come on, that you're looking at the right thing and looking in the right place and trusting in the right person. You need to make sure who you're listening to, who you turn a deaf ear to. Lord, we love you today. Thank you for what you're doing in this house, God. Thank you for what you're doing in this house, God. You are great and greatly to be praised. You are great and greatly to be praised. You are great and greatly to be praised. Oh, we love you, Jesus. We love you, Jesus. Hallelujah to you, Jesus. Hallelujah to you, Jesus. Hallelujah to you, Jesus. Bless you, Lord. Bless you, Lord. Oh, can we say this real quick? Hallelujah. 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 Thank you, Jesus. 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 Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Hallelujah. Go one more time, I'll let you go. Hallelujah. 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 Y'all want to give him a hand of praise when you do it? Thank you for being here today. Turn around, shake somebody's hand, love them a little bit, no service tonight. May the Lord bless you. Amen. Remember,